everybody. Thanks for being here. I'm Deb Socia, as she mentioned. The topic today is one that hits close to home for me. It's a very important topic, and one that I know our amazing panelists will do a great job to talk about. We have a very short time for our panel today, so I'm going to move right to intros, having each of you introduce yourself, and then we're going to jump right into questions. So should we start with Michelle?
Sure. Thank you for that, Deb. Hello, everybody. I'm Michelle Rickler. I'm Executive Director of the Disability Resource Center and the Mosaic program at the University of Tennessee in Chattanooga. This topic is very important to me as well, as this is my life's passion. I also have 3 children that are neurodiverse, and so all the work that I can do here is going to help them in the future. So thank you for letting me be here.
Jordan?
And hi, my name is Jordan Cowie. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft. And I actually joined Microsoft through a neurodiversity hiring program after a somewhat unique approach to getting there. So it's something that's really important to me because it actually is how I now have my current job.
Wonderful. Thank you both. We're going to start with a question for Michelle. Can you explain to us what the Mosaic program is? And perhaps you could give us an example of a student it has supported and assisted.
Sure. Yeah. So the Mosaic program is a comprehensive program that supports UTC students that are on the autism spectrum. We have 4 different areas where we support them. We do some content through curriculum development and classes. We also have them work with a coach. We have them work with a peer mentor or a professional mentor as they get older. And then we also have supervised study or engagement hours. They have to do all of those things to earn their letter grade. And most recently, we've added a really incredible career coordinator. And so that person is working with our business partners, both locally, nationally, and internationally, to try to build some really good pathways for our students to get into employment. And then that their years kind of culminate in what we call the reverse career fair, where students can kind of showcase their abilities and their strengths. And our business partners come in either in person or virtually to meet those students in their space where they're comfortable and they're not competing over neurotypical people to try to get into the conversation. Most recently, I could say that we had 3 students join TBA in paid internships, and two of them graduated and were offered continuous employment post-graduation. So that was just wonderful. And that was through our business partnerships that we've been developing.
That's wonderful. It sounds like a great project. Jordan, you didn't actually start your career in the tech field. What made you interested in working for Microsoft? And can you explain that hiring process that you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed somewhat later in life. And because of that, a lot of people, they mean well, and they give you advice because of how things that you have going on and, various struggles that happen. And so I had just kind of done what seemed right along the way. And eventually when I realized, a very close friend who is now my wife actually kind of said to me, like, are you sure you're not autistic? And I realized and went to see a psychiatrist and confirmed. And so I started reevaluating kind of everything that happened up until then and realizing, okay, this is not working for me. I'm an autistic person who almost never uses telephones, took a job in a call center at one point. Like, there was some really misconnections there. And so when I reevaluated, I was kind of feeling down. I'd been working minimum wage jobs for a while and really struggling. And then I saw the program at Microsoft, and I'd programmed when I was younger and I'd done really well at it, and for whatever reason, given it up. And so it was kind of specifically the hiring program at Microsoft that spoke to me and made me decide to go back to school and get my computer science degree, because it gave me hope. And so my first time around, I was still in school, and they gave me a shot with the interview, and didn't work out so great. I mean, I'd only been doing it for like a year at that point. It was really, really green. And I didn't think anything of it, found another job along the way. And about a year later, I got called back saying, hey, do you want to try again? And so they send you like a coding test with that program, and made it through there. Then they do a short phone interview to get an idea of who you are, and made it through there. And then the main part of the hiring program is actually about 3 or 4 days long. It changes, it's changed over time since the pandemic. But basically they bring you, well, now they bring you online, and they kind of explain the process to you. They explain the interview, how interviews work, and they kind of give you some feedback, they give you some practice to work with. They introduce you to all the different hiring managers who were there that week and the different, groups they are hiring. And they really kind of make you feel comfortable with the process. They actually bring some games into the process. So they use Minecraft and some custom design levels to kind of make you feel at ease and get working with, in teams scenarios and things like that. And then finally, after 2 or 3 days of preparation, that's when they actually interview you. So they really give you the chance to succeed before they just throw you into the fire, because technical interviews can be pretty intense. So it's a really neat process to prepare you for it and make you feel at home while you're there.
Right, and I understand that your wife also works at Microsoft.
Yeah, so that's when I did the program, I'm from Canada, and the visa that I came to the US on only allows me to work. And so it's one of those things where my wife just did not want to be did not want to stay at home. She wanted to work as well. And she was also diagnosed with autism after me. After I realized I helped her realize she was. And so we were kind of working through it, and she had some injuries. She was a professional musician and she got injured. So she was looking for a new career, and seeing how much I loved my job after I joined Microsoft, she decided to jump in and try it for herself. She also applied to the Neurodiversity program, and she was recently hired. She'll be starting actually in probably about the next month or so.
Wonderful. Thank you. Always good to hear the success stories. Michelle, have you seen other organizations engage in similar processes, and what are you seeing that has helped folks who are neurodiverse get hired?
Yeah, I'm starting to see a lot more conversation happening in the neurodiversity space. A lot more interest in learning more, because I think people that are in managerial positions are seeing the benefits. They're seeing the innovation that comes. They're seeing the flexibility of thought. They're seeing all these different ideas that can fire up from people that just see the world and experience the world differently. So there's a lot more interest, but there's not a lot of training out there. There's not a lot of supervisory training that managers can go through to figure out how to manage or supervise an employee that's on the spectrum or employee that is neurodiverse. So locally, what we're seeing is, so we at UTC, we host business lunches where we invite business partners in that maybe we're not connected with yet. And we feed them, because we always know that if you give food, people will come. So we feed them a pretty decent college lunch. And then we talk about neurodiversity and the benefits of hiring folks that are neurodiverse. We talk about all those benefits. We talk about things from a strength-based view. And then we also offer to come in and talk to managers and come in and talk to supervisors about some best next steps. Like, how would you support this person, this employee? How would you supervise this employee? How would you communicate with this employee? And then once they bring our students on as interns or do professional mentorship, we go in and we also offer to do what we call social interpreting. So if there's been a confusion that has happened, or if one of the employees is not following through with what they've been asked, we'll go in and kind of sit in that conversation and make sure that each person is hearing and perceiving the actual messaging that's happening. So we offer to do that for our business partners as well. We feel like that's really offering kind of a safe space, not only for our students, but then for other neurodiverse individuals to come to that space to work. We've done this with many companies in town, and even something as simple as recommending removing the interview room from next to the cafeteria and moving it somewhere else, right? Even those little suggestions that people don't think about. It's just partnering with people that have a strong understanding of neurodiversity and being willing to say, we don't know what we're doing, can you help us? And so we're pleasantly seeing more and more people that are willing to let us come in and have those conversations.
All right, that's great. I mean, there is so much value to hiring folks who are neurodiverse. And we have so many open positions that folks could fill that it feels like such a natural fit. Jordan, I know the hiring process worked well for you, but what has your work experience been like? Do you feel comfortable in your work environment, and what makes that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been pretty transformational, in the sense that it's been a really wonderful fit. I've really enjoyed the work I've done. I've had the chance to work on a few different projects, and um, I think the thing that makes it work is Microsoft has really embraced a lot of elements of neurodiversity. Yes, there's strictly speaking the hiring program, but also there's a lot of awareness within the organization and within Microsoft itself that you start to realize that I think far more people are neurodiverse than we actually believe. Like it's a little frustrating almost saying, there's benefits to hiring people with neurodiversity because of the fact that I think it really applies to more people that don't even identify yet. But I think where it comes down to is almost hiring people who struggle to hide their neurodiversity. Some people, they can hide it and they make it through, and that's not good for them either. And so I think what's really worked for me at Microsoft is even people who would normally be forced to hide their own neurodiversities because they can kind of pass and get by in life, and that's the way they've found coping, they actually now feel empowered to start embracing their own neurodiversity. So you have people like me who have struggled to kind of mask some of my more neurodiverse traits, and you have people who have previously suffered by masking who can now all kind of come together and just be themselves and work in their own ways. And especially with COVID and the move to hybrid work, is the company as a whole has embraced so much flexibility that, other than meetings that you kind of need to be there for, I can take a few hours off and come back later today and get my work done. I can, reschedule things so everything's early in the morning or late at night. And it's just something that I haven't seen everywhere. So as much as there's programs specifically to support people like me, it's the fact that everyone is almost encouraged to embrace their neurodiversity that makes me not stand out as much, which is kind of nice.
Right. And I think one of the challenges for businesses who are thinking of hiring folks who are neurodiverse is they imagine two things. One, I'm going to have to make tons of accommodations and it's going to be expensive. And two, I'm not going to get the same quantity of work. Now, I'd like you to each respond to that, because I know that the ways that businesses perceive folks who are neurodiverse are often different than the way neurodiversity actually works. So we'll start with Michelle and then go to Jordan.
Yeah, that is one of the things that we talk about often, is that often the accommodations that a neurodiverse individual may require cost less than $50. Most of the things that they have that they're going to need to self-regulate, they have in their own possession already because they've been using them. We mentioned some examples of like a time to get out of the office and walk around for a minute, or one of the students that we had at Blue Cross Blue Shield, I had to request that he receive an announcement, or like be announced that there was going to be a fire drill before it happened, so that he wouldn't like crawl under his desk, because that he reacts that way to loud noises. So most of the accommodations that we would request for students, or that students request for themselves, are really just self-regulatory things that they do themselves. We talked to supervisors about sending out meeting agendas so that they can process what's going to be talked about in the meeting and then send meeting notes after. And to be honest, that's just best practices for any employee. I mean, I don't like to go into a meeting not knowing what we're going to be talking about. And I also oftentimes get engrossed in the conversation and forget to take my own notes. So when I receive those meeting notes, the meeting agendas, that helps me as well. I just think that supervisors, just if they give students or give individuals that are neurodiverse a chance, they'll see that the productivity is great. They'll see that they're collegial. They'll see that they will get along with people. They'll see that it's not what you think neurodiversity is, right? We're not, it's everybody thinks about Rain Man, and we're way beyond that. We have, and I agree with what Jordan says, there's far, far more people that are neurodiverse than are neurotypical, I would guess. And I also agree that once you get around people, get comfortable, then you get to be okay with your neurodiversity as well. We don't have to put on that mask anymore, because it is damaging to camouflage. And I feel it at the end of the day when I have been like trying to be prim and proper and professional, I am exhausted by 3 o'clock and I still have another couple hours in my day. So I love companies that are, supporting individuals like Jordan, who, if you're not a morning person, work in the evening, just as long as you get your work done. And I wholeheartedly believe in that flexibility and letting people perform and be their authentic selves and produce what they're able to produce without all of these barriers and walls.
Right, right. Jordan, how would you respond?
Yeah, I think part of the very, much in line with what Michelle said, a lot of the accommodations that somebody who's neurodiverse need, they aren't physical things. They're not tangible things. It's about attitude and open-mindedness. The biggest challenge that I see people like me face is that people aren't willing to be open-minded. I think that's true of anyone who's diverse in any way, shape, or form. The biggest challenge is getting people to be open-minded. Just because something's different doesn't mean it's bad. And so with neurodiversity, the biggest accommodations are around having managers who are willing to wait and see, who are willing to give it a chance and accept that just because this person does things differently doesn't mean it's bad. Just because this isn't how I've always forced my employees to work doesn't mean that if this person does it differently, they won't also get results. Micromanagers are the biggest bane of a neurodiverse person's life, because it's hard for us to fit into a wide box, never mind this super narrow one. So I think that's the biggest one, is realizing that it's cultural changes and it's acceptance and open-mindedness that most neurodiverse people need. Some of them, there's a very wide spectrum. And so some do need more accommodations. Disabilities have very wide range. But even people who need wider ranges of accommodations are probably most impacted by the small little things that are easy. As far as being afraid of not getting work done, I think you have to realize that, again, it's different. And you give it a chance, and you give that person a chance to do the work their own way instead of forcing them to fit into the box that you think they're supposed to fit. So if you give them a chance to, if it doesn't work out, you might guide them. But if at first you let them try it their way, you'll probably find out that if this is a really good fit for them, many neurodiverse people can be extremely effective, if not almost beyond what a neurotypical person is, because many of the distractions that happen to neurotypical people don't happen to us. It's other things that distract us. So if we can get into a spot where we're focused, many neurodiverse people can sit down and use the coping mechanisms they've learned of how to survive in the world to throw that into their work and things that they're passionate about, and often produce either on par or sometimes even beyond what a neurotypical person could do in a similar realm.
Right. And so wrapping this up, we're not asking folks who hire neurodiverse folks to expect less work. And we are finding, I think across the board, that it's not expensive to accommodate the small changes you might need to make. It's a lot about attitude, it sounds like, Jordan, right? The way that you're working in collaboration with your supervisor and how that supervisor manages time. So I want to ask a question about your peer relationships first, Jordan. And if you would not mind sharing with us, how is it different? You talked a little bit about that, but how is it different at Microsoft compared to other roles? And if you could sort of give us some examples of other roles, what worked and didn't work, and at Microsoft, what works and doesn't work in terms of peer relationships?
Part of it comes down to how the company encourages and rewards certain behaviors. Microsoft and a lot of technology companies are very performance driven. There is a level of, you did a good job, you created something useful, you earn my respect. That's how that's almost the currency at Microsoft in a social perspective. There's always going to be politics, but it's really, compared to most companies, it's very much so, can you create, can you produce, are you making my life easier, I'll make your life easier, we'll all work together. And so much of the conversation is around that. In previous roles, I used to work in the wine industry, big jump, and the wine industry is extremely, extremely social. And so almost to a fault, it's the personal connections that are rewarded. It's not, did you perform? It's who do you know? And how well do they know you? And do they like you, type of thing. And it's reinforced by managers, it's reinforced by owners, it's constantly reinforced in that way. So it's a very narrow perspective of the human experience. If you're not the outgoing, super social person, you get nowhere. And so that's something I've seen different at Microsoft, is that I want to be quiet and not say anything, but I'm getting my work done and I can communicate, about my work, that people are happy there. If I want to be loud and outgoing and chat all the time when we're in meetings, that's fine too. Like that's not how you behave socially isn't the focus. It's really what you do. And that's the biggest change.
That's really helpful. Michelle, if someone wanted to get connected to the Mosaic program, whether as a potential participant or as a potential employee, what recommendation do you have for them?
So they can go ahead and call the office, and I can put this information in the chat when we're done. They can call our office at 423-425-4006, or they can get in contact with the director of the Mosaic program, Amy Rutherford. It's amy-rutherford@utc.edu. We definitely are looking for more professional mentors. If you have any internships, any job shadowing, anything that you'd be willing to do with any of our students, we would definitely welcome that. If you're interested in any business lunches, please give us a call and we'll invite you to the next one. We just want to welcome in our community so that we can make Chattanooga and the surrounding area more neurodiverse, friendly, and confident.
Right. And it's a win-win because we're filling roles with competent people and we're getting folks who are unemployed employed, right? It's a win-win across the board. Now I'm going to ask you each a final question. We're going to wrap up in the next few minutes. So I'm going to start with Michelle. If you could give an advice to a business that's hiring, what would that advice be?
I think I would go with what Jordan said as well, is have an open mind. What I witness is that anytime people start talking about the ADA and kind of the litigious nature behind it and the legal nature, they get nervous. The biggest thing is having the right attitude. You can't legislate an attitude though, but I would say, be open-minded, have options available. And also the number one thing that we tell people all the time is don't rank applicants on those neurotypical standards, the neurotypical norms. I knew when I was trained as a woman going into the business field that I need to walk in professionally dressed, but not too stuffy, a little bit of makeup, but not too much, a little bit of perfume, but not too much, shake your hand, smile nicely, sit down and fold your hand. I was trained on all of those things. None of those have anything to do with how I perform at my job. And so just if you could remove that piece and just get to know the person and their output, what they're capable of, because they're highly capable individuals. So that would be mine. Yeah.
That's really helpful. Thanks. And Jordan, your last question. If you were giving a job seeker advice, a neurodiverse job seeker, what would that be?
I think the most important one would be to know yourself. Keep an open mind, know when people make suggestions, but at the same time, know yourself and know that despite meaning well, when somebody says, oh, well, it's a great opportunity, it might be for somebody else, but it might not be for you. And attached to that is, if a great opportunity comes up that you see, don't hide who you are. Be who you are and let the company, as much as possible, be a good fit for you. If they only hire you because you were hiding, it's going to be rough. I've been through it myself, and it ended up 8 months later with me having to take 2 months off work because I was that sick. And so even though it's at the time when you need money, it seems difficult, it's not worth it for the end result. And so as much as possible, whenever you can, be yourself and find companies who want who you are. If you can do a mock interview and get feedback on things that you can change within yourself, as keeping true to yourself, but don't change yourself for an interview. Just really look for that fit, because it's not worth the health spiral that can come out of a bad fit.
That's really, really good advice. Both of you have given us wonderful advice. That's our wrap for today. I really appreciate both of your stories and your information and your sharing, because I feel like this is a newer topic of conversation in the disability field, but a really important one. And I'm really thrilled to hear from both of you. Thank you both for all of your assistance today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.